So, what is the truth about wine and menopause weight gain? I tested it, and what I found is going to surprise you. I lost 25 pounds after menopause, and I've kept it off for 2 years, but not by giving up wine. Most women assume wine is just a carb waiting to make them fat. So I decided to find out. Here's what I now know. The question about wine was never really about the calories in the glass. It was about what wine does to your blood sugar. And once you understand that, you'll know exactly how to think about wine for the rest of your life. I have a background in biochemistry, so when I started gaining weight in menopause, despite eating the way I always had, I went back to the science. What I found was that blood sugar spikes, not calories alone, drive weight gain after menopause. When your blood sugar spikes, insulin rises, and insulin is your body's primary fat storage signal. Here's why this hits differently now than it did before menopause. Estrogen used to help keep your cells sensitive to insulin. When estrogen drops, that sensitivity drops with it, so your body has to release more insulin to do the same job. And more insulin circulating means more fat gets stored from the same things you've always eaten. That's the part that's different about our body now. Not your willpower, your hormones. So before we get to the wine, you need to know how I actually find this stuff out. For those of you who are new here, I wear a continuous glucose monitor. It's a small sensor on the back of my arm that tracks my blood sugar in real time around the clock. I test real food and drinks on myself and then share the results with you so you can see exactly what's happening instead of just taking my word for it. Quick context before I show you the first graph. Blood sugar spikes look like sharp, steep climbs. Straight up fast and then just as fast back down on the other side. Healthy responses look completely different. They're more like small rolling hills, gentle rises and dips, staying within a narrow band the whole time, never anything dramatic. So I tested the wine, a glass of white and a glass of red. And then I tested something that actually surprised me. I tested wine together with a snack, pretzels, to see whether wine changes how a carb in that scenario hits you. And I already had the data from pretzels on their own to compare it to. Very different result. Stay with me because that pretzel comparison will change how you think about this. Let's start simple. I poured 6 ounces of Chardonnay and went about my evening. 3 hours later, I checked the data, and here's that result. My blood sugar came up just a tiny bit, then flat. It barely moved. A 6-ounce glass of dry white wine has about 4 grams of carbs, less than a handful of crackers. Most of the sugar gets converted during fermentation. What's left just isn't enough to register. So if you've been avoiding wine because you thought the carbs were spiking you, at least with dry white like this, they're not. And if it's really the calories you've been worried about, a 6-ounce glass runs about 150 calories, roughly the same as 2 hard-boiled eggs, so not really that much. I'm a red wine drinker too, so naturally I wanted to know if it behaved the same way. I poured a Cabernet on a different day, same protocol, same monitor, and went about my evening. Here's that result. No spike here either, but look closer. My blood sugar didn't just stay as flat this time. It actually dropped from 85 milligrams per deciliter down to 70. 2 different results, white stayed flat, red dropped. And both of them trace back to the same thing happening inside your body. Your liver has one priority when alcohol shows up. Get rid of it. Alcohol gets treated as a toxin, so your liver shifts its attention to deal with it first. One of the things that gets deprioritized is this normal job of releasing a steady trickle of glucose into your bloodstream between meals. With that deprioritized, whatever your blood sugar was on its way to do tends to not happen the same way. If it was about to drift up a little bit from an earlier meal, like the white wine test, it's more likely to just hold flat instead. If it was already heading down, like the Cabernet test, there's less holding it up, so it can drop further than it normally would. Same liver doing the same job, just starting from 2 different places, which is why the graphs look slightly different from each other. Remember, these are my personal results and everyone's different. You should always talk to your doctor before making changes to your diet, but they're a good starting point for your own awareness. Now, why does any of this matter for your weight and not just your blood sugar? Because deprioritizing glucose release isn't the only thing your liver does. It also slows fat oxidation. That's the process of actually burning stored fat for energy. It doesn't actually stop, but it slows for as long as your liver is busy with the alcohol. So a glass of wine, either color, isn't spiking you, and it's not really storing fat either. It's just putting fat burning on a bit of a pause while your liver handles one thing at a time. And here's the part most people never connect to any of this. Whether your blood sugar dropped like the Cabernet or just sat flat for a few hours like the Chardonnay, either way your body is going to come looking for food. A flat line for 3 hours isn't a free pass. It's just your liver buying itself some time. Hold on to that because it matters a lot more once there's food in the picture. And wine almost never happens alone, right? You're at dinner and there's bread on the table, or you're in the kitchen and grab a handful of something while a glass is in your hand. Or it's Friday night and someone opens a bag of chips or pretzels. So I ran one more test, the one I told you about earlier in the video. Before I show you that result, you need one number. My personal target is to stay under 40-point rise with anything I eat or drink. That's the zone where the weight came off for me. Same pretzels I already tested on this channel. A measured portion, the kind you grab without thinking. First pretzels alone, no wine. Here's that result. A 41-point rise, just past my target from a handful of pretzels. Not even a meal. Now for the next test. I had the same pretzels, same portion, but with a glass of Chardonnay alongside them. Here's that result. A 30-point rise compared to the 41 with no wine at all. That's the liver again. The same one that was busy with both glasses of wine from the earlier test. While metabolizing the alcohol, it had less left over to push out its own glucose on top of what the pretzels were already sending in from my gut. So the spike got just a little blunted. I know what that sounds like. Wine canceled out the pretzels. It didn't. The liver can only blunt out what it would have contributed. It can't stop carbs from being absorbed through your gut. Give it a real carb load, like a basket of bread or a big bowl of pasta, and you'll spike anyway, wine or no wine. So here's the truth. A small carb with wine looks better on the graph, but your fat burning is still paused the whole time for the wine or for the food, which means the real decision isn't about the spike at all. Here's the personal decision I land on based on everything I just showed you. When I have wine with dinner, I skip the dense carb, the bread, the pasta, the potato, not the green vegetables on my plate. It's wine or the dense carb for me, not both. And I want to be really clear about what that means. It's not a rule that takes anything away from you. I still anchor my meals with protein and healthy fat. That's protein pacing, the same anchor principle I use every day. It's just the wine coming in along for the ride instead of the carb. That's not deprivation. That's just knowing what's actually happening so you get to choose what goes where. Now think back to the flat line and that drop. Either way, your body's going to start looking for food, and that's not a willpower problem. So think about where the wine usually shows up. A party, a get-together, somewhere with food everywhere, no plan, and a glass that keeps getting refilled. Whether your blood sugar quietly held flat or actually dropped a little, the result is the same. You get hungry, and the snack table is a lot harder to walk past. That's the one thing I actually really watch now. Not the wine itself, the hunger that shows up after it, especially somewhere with a lot of ultra-processed snacks sitting out and no real plan for dinner. Knowing that ahead of time means I can have a glass of wine or two and enjoy the evening and just be a little more deliberate about what's nearby when that hunger hits. So here's where all that leaves us. Dry wine doesn't spike your blood sugar. That part's simply true, and you don't need to feel guilty about a glass. Sweet wines are a different story. A Riesling or a Moscato carry a lot more sugar and a much bigger response. That's not what I tested, and it's not what most of us are reaching for at dinner anyway. For a real glass of dry wine, what matters isn't the carbs in it. It's what's sitting on the plate next to it and what's around you a little while later, because your appetite is coming back whether the line on the graph went down or just held steady. Wine or the dense carb at the meal, and a little awareness of the hunger that follows. That's the whole thing. I've lost 25 pounds and kept it off for over 2 years, and I still drink wine. This is exactly how to lose weight during menopause without doing mental math over every glass. Informed, not deprived. And that's the difference between fearing the menopause belly fat conversation and just being armed for it. If you want to go deeper on the carb piece, how I eat carbs and still keep my blood sugar from spiking, I'll link that video here. I've got a whole library of results I'll be sharing on this channel. Subscribe so you don't miss any of it. And if there's something specific you want me to test, leave it in the comments. I'll see you on the next one.